This is Jilliana Ranicar-Breese in Lowell at the Kerouac Festival, or rather I should say at the end of it. And I'm here with David Amram, who's the star of the festival, you might say, because he actually was a contemporary and a buddy of Jack Kerouac, isn't that right?
I was Jack's first music collaborator. We met in 1956 at a Bring Your Own Bottle party and just started doing stuff together for fun.
And what year would that be?
That was 1956.
Okay.
And then in 1957, we did the first ever public jazz poetry readings in New York City with the poets Howard Hart and Philip Lametia and myself. And then in 1959, we did the film Pull My Daisy, which Jack narrated and for which I composed the chamber music jazz score and also appeared in his
So, were you friendly with him in Lowell, or was it New York?
No, I was in New York mostly, and I never really came to Lowell until 1994, but I felt I'd been there because Jack always talked about it and always wrote about it.
So your friendship spanned how many years, would you say, with Jack?
Well, from 1956 until he passed away in 1969, I stayed friends with him.
Quite a long time.
And when he was in Florida, we talked on the phone all the time and used to do music, poetry together over the phone. And
over the phone?
Well, because he was down there, and then anytime
of course, there wasn't the internet in those days.
When he came to New York to visit, he would very often crash at my little place on 6th Avenue, where I lived at the time.
Yeah. Okay, well, you relive his memory by talking about him, and have you actually composed music for him?
Yeah, the second movement of my flute concerto, which Sir James Galway commissioned and premiered, used two French-Canadian folk songs, Un Canadien Errant and À la Claire Fontaine, two traditional songs that he used to sing to me over and over, usually about 3 a.m. when we were taking our strolls through the canyons of New York at night. And he loved his Franco-American or Quebecois heritage, and as a first-generation American, understood the nature of trying to figure out where you belong, what you are, and coming to the realization that we're all immigrants and we're all outsiders, and therefore we're all together because of that common situation.
Yeah.
And that the native people who've been here thousands and thousands of years before any of us came have a lot to teach us.
Yeah. Okay, well, I know you're in a hurry to get back to New York.
Oh, no, and one thing that I always mention to people, too, is that aside from his generosity of spirit, he was extremely well-read. He was extremely literate. He loved the European classics. Bach was his favorite composer. He loved jazz. He loved Cajun music, Latin American, Native American music, French, Canadian music, Middle Eastern music, and all the literature.
Did he play himself?
Yes, he was very gifted, incredibly gifted singer, a scat singer, and he also played a certain Beethoven-esque style of crashing piano. And if he had ever decided to be a musician, he was a musician, he just didn't do it. He would have been a terrific composer as well. He was a very creative person, as he was a good painter. And the other thing I think that I'd love to mention is that when the British Library had me come over when they were celebrating Jack Kerouac, his original scroll for On the Road, which was very carefully preserved thanks to James Earsay, had a conservator that took it out of the case, put it out, treated it so it wouldn't disintegrate, and they had this huge scroll right in the library a few hundred feet from the old King George Library collection. And I was there to speak about him and to play some kind of music that he liked. And I mentioned that if he were alive and were able to see that his original manuscript was along with the original manuscripts of Beowulf and Chaucer and Shakespeare and Emily Bronte.
And where is the original manuscript today?
It's still traveling around the world thanks to James Earsay, who has it constantly on tour so that people can see that one person with a typewriter, totally unknown, could help to change the world and make it a more
Where will
beautiful
it
place.
come back to? do you
I have
think?
no idea. That it's constantly being shown, and I've been to many, many different places, including here and London and Indianapolis and New York City several times, and Orlando, Florida, different places where they've invited me to come, and it's being shown constantly all around the world. Another of my compositions, A Year in Our Land, a cantata, had the settings of works by Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, John Dos Passos, and Jack Kerouac. And Jack gave me 50 books to read, which he said, all of which he'd read, which he said would enable me to find a good text. And the last movement of my violin sonata, which now gets played all over, the last one was a theme and variations. And the theme that I used was a little snippet of something that I had done for the film Pull My Daisy that we did together, that was kind of a secondary melody. So I have classical concert pieces that are dedicated and inspired by Jack. And since I wrote the program notes myself,
Yeah.
I do that because unfortunately, until recently here, he was stereotyped as being the big slob moron from Lowell that was a fast
They ought
typist.
to show in the festival the movie.
I beg your pardon?
They ought to show the
Oh,
screen.
I think they've
Pull
shown
My
it. I think
Daisy.
they've shown it several times. And the best thing about that film was, of course, his spontaneous narration, which was miraculous. And among other things, it shows what a brilliant guy he was, how funny he was, because he made up the voices of all the people who were in the silent film. And also the fact he was such a good sport, because we massacred his original idea. The cast were all non-actors, which we proved by our non-performances, myself included, as Mesme Gillicuddy, the deranged French hornist. The only real actor in it was Delphine Seyrig, who later became famous for being the star of Last Year in Marienbad. She studied at the French Conservatory, but since they had no sound and it was a silent film, and she was a great actress and had no gigs at the time in 1959, since there wasn't French-speaking theater in New York, she was in the film, and she said, "You know, David, that was such a dumb movie," she said, "but I had more fun being with all of you people that didn't know what you were doing than I've ever had in any film since then."
Okay, we must end there, David. But
Good.
lovely meeting you, and I hope to see you again
It's nice to meet you.
sometime.
Thank you for reading your poem. You were terrific.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you for the compliment. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, I hate your